Dear dog owner across the street who doesn't understand how dogs work, your dog is hot. Let them inside. Please do not keep them outside where it's not air conditioned in the hottest day of the year. Please don't do that. It's not super hot outside to where the dog will die, but I think the dog appreciates air conditioning too. I'm just saying, I'm so sick of it. I have to close my window. I'm not even mad that the dog's outside and I have to close my window because, it's hot in here, but I'm mad that the dog is probably barking because they want air conditioning. I'm just saying. Hi guys, it's Luna, and welcome back. I don't sound happy right now, because I'm not. I'm kind of upset and in a funk. And I saw this article, and I was reading through it, and I was like, this don't sound right. This sounds like this is bad. And I wanted to pick fun at it. No shade to the person who made the article at all. I just disagree strongly, and I want to give some reasons why, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Sorry that I'm busting out boring videos, not talking about hot topics. Drama isn't fun right now, and I'm waiting until it gets fun again. Anyways, I'm going to be reading this article paragraph by paragraph, so sorry if you hear my struggle reading, but also it's not that long of an article, so I just thought reading it would be the easiest thing. Summarizing is okay, but I really want you guys to hear the person's points so you can make your own decision if you believe in my opinion or if their opinion was right all along and I'm just tripping. Let's see. And it's already hot with the window being closed, so we're gonna do this a little bit more irritating sounding than I actually am at the damn article. I'm just mad because it's hot now. But this article is titled My Hero Academia vs. Rwby. Is UA or Beacon the better hero academy?
My Hero Academia and Rwby have two of the most iconic academies in anime, but one prestigious school outclasses the other.
First little tidbit that just popped out to me when I first read that was solely, that's true, but not for the reasons you think. First of all, in the universe of My Hero Academia, UA is the top of the top when it comes to schools in that world specifically. Beacon is not. We all know, if you've watched Rwby, Atlas is seen as the most prestigious academy because of Atlas itself is just like a hub for rich people. They're more technologically advanced than any other kingdom. They just have so much more than any kingdom in Rwby. So right there, you can't really compare Beacon and UA because they're not even on the same level in the sense of they're the most prestigious academy. From what we can see, Beacon's just the best one in Vale, and we don't even know if there's any other ones. That's just the best one in that kingdom, and that's about it. That might just be the only one, because they have combat school, but that seems more like a step down. Like you go to combat school first, and then you go to somewhere like Beacon or Haven or whatever. But let's hear them out.
Heroes always need to learn the tools of their trade before being let loose on the wider world. This is why so many fictional worlds like the one in My Hero Academia and Rwby feature hero academies, in which teachers, experienced heroes who have confronted evil in the past can train the next generation to replace them and keep the world a safer place. While most of these come from young adult novels and films, such as Harry Potter and that one that I have no idea what that one is, mangas and animes have their fair share too. Two of the most notable are UA High School from My Hero Academia and Beacon Academy from Rwby. While both on the surface are rather similar to other magic/superhero schools, both institutes have their own unique ways of pushing their students to the extreme to be the best and handle the obstacles that lie ahead for them.
Listen, I better get a pat on the back from fucking somebody because I am lisping throughout this entire thing and I'm not feeling great about myself. But all this is debatable, but let's read on and see if they have a bit better of an argument.
But which school does the better job? Let's examine both and find out whether UA is the better school for fleeing heroes, or if Beacon Academy is truly the greatest as its reputation suggests.
And again, that's not even true for Beacon in its own world, but let's see.
Beacon has a strange tendency to not properly screen new applicants. A student like John can fake transcripts and manage to gain entry, while Ruby Road skips 2 grades and still gets in just by fighting a few adversaries.
We're gonna put a pin in that because that's wrong.
Arguably worst of all, actual villains like Cinder manage to become students in Beacon.
Gonna put a pin in that one too because that's not right.
Infiltrating the school as spies. Because we understand so little about Beacon's application process, the only evidence we have to go on indicates that it isn't super strict about who can successfully enroll and therefore not that prestigious.
This is the part where they lost to me. First of all, when you're trying to compare something, kinda need to know the policies of how they get into Beacon. We don't know that, which is why it's kind of not the best comparison. How we don't know how any academy screens their students. So it could be similar to UA's, we don't know. So really, once you didn't know that, this shouldn't have been a point. Second of all, you got two things wrong. Sure, John did fake his transcripts, so he got in. He could have got in for educational reasons and not just to be a hero, maybe to be a scientist or something like that. So it could be a school like that where you can be a hero, you can be a scientist. We don't really know all of what Beacon offers and everything about their school, because unlike My Hero Academia, we're not following the life of these school-age kids in school. We don't hear all the stuff and all of their professors. Hell, we don't even know who Professor Peach is. We've been wanting to know that for a while. I mean, I have. I've never seen her. We don't know who she is. We don't know what she looks like. We just assume that she's a Peach. I don't know who she is, but they reference her like she's the actual teacher that they're gonna bring up at one point, but they never do. But getting off that ramble, since we don't know much about the school because it's not focused on the school, it's more focused on Team Rwby themselves and their friends, it's kind of hard to just make this comparison, period. And there's lots of problems with making a comparison when that's all you have to go off of, but you can't really use that point when you don't know why he got in or what the stuff behind that was. Plus, you did just get like Ruby's thing wrong. She didn't just skip 2 grades, and the reason she got in was because she fought a few people. She got in because of her eye. If it wasn't for her silver eyes, she would have just got in like Yang did. Hell, Yang seemed more qualified than Rwby did. Weiss seemed better than Rwby did. She had to get in for some other reason because people were more advanced than her. And Cinder thing, got that wrong as well. Cinder was never a student at Beacon. She was a student at Haven who came over for the Vital Festival, so it really wasn't that hard for them to get in. All they needed was someone who looked young enough to be a student, and again, faking transcripts. So if faking transcripts work with John, I'm not surprised that it worked with Cinder.
On the other hand, UA has an incredibly stringent application process. Much like Ruby Road, Midoriya proved himself in front of UA's teachers by stopping a villain, but he still had to apply like the rest of them.
He didn't have a quirk though. He got powers. Pretty much just like Rwby got in for her eyes, Midoriya got in because All Might was like, hey, I'm gonna give you my, here, eat this hair. I'm gonna give you my powers. Let's go over and try to apply for UA so I can better teach you in a controlled environment. That's why that happened. And even then, Midoriya fucking fucked his arm first try. He really wasn't prepared nor ready to go to this school. The best he had was his smarts, but that's about it. Like, he still barely knows how to control his powers. He's just now learning, and they teach that in the school, is to learn and control your powers. With Beacon, it's like you need to know how to fight. If you didn't go to combat school, then you wouldn't know how to do this, you know? And maybe I'm wrong, because there are a lot more questions that need to be answered before you can just say something as blatant as this, and this kind of goes into the rest of the paragraph as well.
With the exception of selecting students who enter due to special recommendation, every applicant to UA needs to finish a practical and physical exam. Even upon entering, however, a teacher can expel a student within a few days just for not living up to snuff, supposedly.
Now, I totally get what they're saying, but if we knew something about how getting into Beacon was, or how getting into any academy was, then maybe I'd feel a bit better about being like, yeah, okay, that's a decent opinion. But because we don't know, you're just assuming, well, I know this, so this must be better, or they must not do this, or you don't know. So literally, I can't even say that if someone stuck into UA, they wouldn't be caught, or they wouldn't immediately be found out as a spy, because even just the worlds of My Hero Academia and Rwby are totally different. You're looking at Rwby, this post-apocalyptic, like, people still have villages out here. They're still bandits. The technology that people have in My Hero Academia is different. They have malls up in there. Like, it's a regular society. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody snuck into Beacon and nobody knew. Like, they're going off of this basic technology that barely can do much, but even then, they don't even have the top of the line shit. Atlas does. Beacon gets the scraps, Vacuo gets the scraps, Haven gets the scraps, and Atlas has, like, everything you would need. So this is kind of unfair, because UA is basically Atlas. They have everything. They have the highest technology, all this. So you can say it's not prestigious, sure, but it's really not a good argument to try to put these two up against each other, because it's obvious, again, that Beacon is lesser than UA, but it's not in the sense of, oh, these are somewhat equally matched, or they're somewhat similar. It's not even that. You can't even put this up with the fight. It's just they don't have the resources that UA does. And we don't even know if their standards are high or not, or if it's just because of the lack of resources, we don't know. So this whole argument, even this point you're bringing up, it's hard to even debate because it's literally like, is this full course meal better than this apple? Of course it does, because it's just an apple. That's all we know about this. It's just an apple. This might be a super fruit. It might be like a golden apple for Minecraft. We don't know, but all we see is an apple. And we see a full course meal with all this technology and normalization, this not high society, but this at least on our world, and I mean like the viewers' world level society where they have phones, they have all of these things, they can travel like that, you know what I mean? You'll die traveling from Beacon to Haven, you might die traveling from Beacon to Atlas. There's more of a risk there, you know what I mean? Not saying there's not in My Hero Academia, but it's a lot less of a risk than with Rwby, you know?
This indicates that Beacon Academy will pretty much let anyone, with or without really testing them first. UA, however, is far stricter about who they let in. Only those who can handle the difficulty ahead should be there.
Midoriya blew his arm out during their test. That's not true. That school is there to see if you have any potential and if you could possibly handle it. Not if you can handle it, if you could possibly handle it, which Midoriya could probably learn how to control his strength. But even then, most of the time they were telling him like, if you don't learn how to not break your arm every time you punch someone, then you're out of here. So that's a lie. That's not even the truth. That's some bullshit. If anything, Beacon graduates seem way more capable. Again, they had training prior to where it's like, most of them, they're not going down without a fight. Jean might be an exception to the rule, but again, I don't know their process entirely, so I don't know if maybe he was going to school under a different reason, like how some people go to school for athletics and stuff like that. Like they're specifically going to school to be an athlete, but they're going through we don't know.
Classwork in both Rwby and My Hero Academia are structurally very similar. There are oral lessons mixed with practical tests, with UA adapting a Japanese-inspired structure and Beacon, despite Ruby's heavy influence by anime, basing its classes more like a Western university lecture hall. However, in this case, yet again, there is a clear superior school, UA.
Here we go.
Classes in UA always have a very particular focus in which we see students in UA learning how to push their skills to the limit in a safe, heavily moderated setting. They also go to summer training grounds to experience specialized lessons designed to help hone their skills.
We're going to stop right here, just to make it a little bit easier for myself. You can't say that. You can't say, well, they went to a special training thing, to hone their skills. They went there because there was a league of villains trying to kill their specific class. From what we can see, a lot of the amenities that UA provided to a lot of these students were not just because they went to UA, because a lot of students didn't get these things. It was because they were being hunted by the villains and they wanted to keep them as safe as they could because they had the technology to do so. Again, similar to Atlas, they can do that. With Beacon, they really couldn't. They couldn't just lock down the entire school and be like, no, I can come in here. Because again, it would be suspicious, which is why UA didn't just do that. They had to move their students to several different locations just to keep them safe. Beacon is like a poor school. They can't do that. Even if they could. Let's just give them, even if they could. They weren't under that kind of threat like UA was. They were sure being invaded, but the kids could go somewhere else. Like they could have sent all the kids and transferred them somewhere else. It didn't mean that Beacon wouldn't have fell. They weren't after the kids. They were after the relic.
Likewise, teachers at UA take a personal interest in each of their students.
Okay, first of all, I'm not even going to read the rest of that. You guys can read that. This is some bullshit because I read over it before I started reading it, and honestly, I can't contain myself. That's some bullshit. Here's why. There are several occasions in Rwby with Professor Port and many other people where they're taking consideration to the kids that they are teaching, and they take their time with those children individually. When Pyrrha was against Mercury, those are those type of situations where you have two kids against each other, and we've seen it before earlier in the series with John and Carton, where Linda was watching their fight and giving John corrections and pointers. And I'm sure they've been doing that for a while, or he's been watching them. That's what that is. That's just watching someone else spar so you can gain knowledge from that, or doing it yourself so you know where your weak points are and you can learn from those. There are several times in Rwby where that happens, but again, Rwby isn't just focused on the high school experience, so we don't really see all of that because that's not the focus. It's the character building within Rwby, and specifically for Team Rwby. So again, I don't understand. Okay.
All of this contrasts heavily with Beacon, where many lectures are rambles, unfocused messes. Peter Port in particular spends more time bragging about himself than actually teaching his kids anything. Most of the lessons the students learn while in Beacon have very little to do with their teachers, but rather are formed by being dumped in horribly extreme circumstances. The first lesson in Beacon, for example, which pits its students against dangerous enemies, could kill a full-grown huntsman, much less a huntsman in training.
Again, we don't see what they learned in combat school. We don't know how prepared each student was and what the tests or requirements to get into Beacon were. But let's be honest here. We've all seen the characters in Rwby fight. They are well equipped to handle the situation. The one person who almost died was John, and he had several huntsmen in training around him to keep him safe. He was fine. Plus, let's not act like in My Hero Academia, they were never thrown into way dangerous situations to test their limits or to do whatever. Even the training camp, they were made to train in extreme circumstances because of the villains trying to fight them. Do we not remember going through each and every one of their special trainings and how they left people in crazy situations? Todoroki was in a bathtub, freezing himself and boiling himself so he wouldn't die. Dark Shadow was in a cave. Period. I don't even have to say anything else. Dark Shadow was in a cave. They left that boy to die with Dark Shadow in that damn cave. Let's not act like there aren't millions of situations even before that to where these kids were put into danger because of negligence or people just being stupid. In my opinion. Maybe that's just me.
This apathy towards the safety of its students stands in direct contrast with UA, where teachers constantly strive to provide challenging yet safe environments for their children to flourish, or students rather. Consider this: what did John learn from classes in Rwby that Pyrrha didn't teach him?
We don't know that because it wasn't focused on the classes, and Pyrrha and John's relationship was being shown. That's why they showed the practice lesson. That's why they showed that whole thing, was to connect their relationship, not necessarily to show that their teachers weren't doing a good job or anything like that. Jean just needed extra lessons. That doesn't mean he didn't learn anything or that nobody learned anything. It just shows that he needed extra lessons. Again, he faked his way in, so it's not surprising that Pyrrha needed to teach him something extra, because he should have known. If nothing, that shows the standard of he should have known a certain amount of things before he could get into this academy that he did not know, which is why he needed the extra lessons on simple things like a landing strategy. Everybody had a landing strategy except for John. Everybody knew how to gauge their aura except for John. Everybody knew about their semblance except for John. There's a standard there that he didn't meet, which is why he needed that extra help.
How did Team Rwby actually grow at school? The truth is that they learned from practical combat experience, not from their lessons.
Well, you can't really learn how to kill a Grimm solely by books. You get that, right? Like, a lot of it would just be learning the Grimm, their weakness, where they usually are, what to do, what not to do, what dust maybe to use, or things like that. You'd be learning stuff like that. But when you're fighting monsters, most of what you'll learn is going to be from, like, personal experience, from like hand-to-hand combat, or from actually being in this field and experience it. It's not going to be from the books. That doesn't make any sense. So what's your point? Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't get it. You don't see a lot of their lessons because you can't learn to kill stuff mainly from lessons. You know what I mean? I can be told how to shoot a bow exactly. Does not mean when I try to shoot a bow, I'm going to shoot a bullseye right there. That's not how that works.
Neither school in My Hero Academia or Rwby is totally safe. The League of Villains has invaded UA multiple times, and come season 3 of Rwby, Beacon is obliterated by a similar villainous invasion. However, there is a distinct difference between the safety level of UA and Beacon. More specifically, that UA at least tries to be safe, while Beacon not so much.
That's not true. Beacon just doesn't have the same resources that even Atlas has, let alone UA. You know, the place that is in like a regular ass society with the regular ass technology plus hero shit, where Rwby again still has villages and bandits, and cell phone reception is a genuine thing that plagues that world. You know, last time I've had problem having cell phone reception, unless I didn't pay my bill, I always have cell phone reception. Always. It's like, walk 2 steps that way, you're gonna have no signal for miles. And that's because it's like, there are villages there. Like, the CCT towers are the only thing that's keeping that shit up. Their technology really isn't that great. Like, having communication is still a thing they struggle with.
Again, the first lesson in Rwby involved throwing children off a cliff and dumping them into a murderous pit of monsters, unsupervised. This is somewhat similar to Season 3's summer camp arc in My Hero Academia.
No, it's more similar to the beginning exams where, like, Midoriya threw out his arm. They still were in a pit with, like, monsters and shit and still had to find their way out. Sure, it was a little bit more controlled, but they still need to learn how to at least get out of fucking Dodge, which some of the characters, admittedly, aren't that good at.
Where UA students are also thrown into forests filled with monsters, however, the environment there is entirely controlled by the heroes, which the monsters in question are manifested by the wild pussycats. They aren't wild animals.
Again, there are several times where these kids have been in dangerous ass situations, and they should have been locked down once they learned the first time that the League of Villains was after these kids. But they did not, because they were still trying to keep up the image that UA was safe. But you know what? That's going into a whole other thing. Let me stop rambling and read the rest of this shit.
Furthermore, while UA does get infiltrated multiple times, the school goes out of its way to stop this from happening with multiple security precautions.
Let me just say this. UA had the League of Villains, several teachers, and bomb-ass technology. Let's just talk about the fall of Beacon period. Okay, let's just talk about that one. With the fall of Beacon, they had the Grimm after them. They had their own technology turned against them. So they had part of the Atlas army against them. They had the White Fang, which has thousands of members of capable people who literally are looking to kill somebody that looks like a human. They had to keep the citizens of Vale and the students of Beacon safe. And they had to get everybody out without anybody dying. From what we know, there were some casualties. There was Pyrrha dying and probably like a few more people that kicked dust. But they got most people out into the airships safely. Those kids, I think they're on a higher level than the kids at UA. They can barely escape alive themselves, let alone get anybody else to safety. So I think they're a little bit more capable than they're giving them credit for.
Including moving the kids to dorms in response to public concern.
That was after they moved several times, but okay, we're just not going to acknowledge that.
Yes, a villain like Gentle Criminal can still figure out a way to break into the school
campus. Also, you're showing that you know that this campus really isn't secure like that. Bye.
But that doesn't change the fact that UA actively tries to protect its students.
Because it actively knows there's a threat. Beacon at least knew there was a threat and tried to... Okay, whatever.
Beacon, on the other hand, had very little security, subsequently is repeatedly invaded.
It was invaded once by 3 people. It was just 3 people. 4, counting Neo. It was 4 people. They had an ally that was powerful than everybody with them on their side. What do you mean? And a person who could hack into... They had so much more people against them. They had a whole... terrorist organization. I don't think they're a terrorist organization, but like I'm talking about the White Fang specifically. They had the Grimm that were clawing at their kingdom's walls. They're always clawing at their kingdom's walls. They had this lady with unbelievable power, like unlimited fucking power. You got Dr. Watts, you had Hazel, you had all these people who, and on top of that, they were after the maiden. Like, they had way more to deal with than I feel like UA did. Not saying that it was like a large margin, but with the things they already don't have, like technology-wise and all that shit, all the shit that they tried to do, all the precautions they tried to take, I think it still means something in my opinion anyways.
It became clear that every security detail the teachers might have put in has failed. The students are forced to defend themselves. While it is true that UA also had required students to defend themselves and the school, there were still teachers who made a real difference in helping them.
But there are a hell of a lot more teachers that weren't there. Apparently UA is this big school with lots of people that we never see. But, we really didn't see them until like more recent season. But like, there were a hell of teachers there, especially when they had the whole fight in UA. Like, there were people there, but listen, there are a lot of faults in a lot of the situations in My Hero Academia that this person just not even addressing. It's just like, well, it's still a better and safer school. No, they're pretty much on the same level of unsafe. And really, as soon as they figured out that these kids are being hunted, they should have immediately figured out who they were hunting in the first place, which I think we all kind of knew why they were hunting them, and I think they kind of already figured that out at this point. These kids should have been like, you can do school later, you don't need to learn right now, you need to be protected, period. That should have been the first thing they should have done, but they didn't. So I think it's just the same level of unsafe. They're not really making good points here. again, then they just bring Pyrrha's death into it, which Ozpin told them to leave that situation and immediately go get a teacher. That's the first thing he said. Don't come back. Don't try to fight. Go find Glinda, Ironwood, Crow, anybody. Don't be doing this. They were specifically told not to do it, and Pyrrha just didn't listen because she believed it was her destiny. She was never supposed. Once basically Cinder got the maiden power, they was like, bitch, go. You're not going to be helpful in this fight. Go find a teacher. And she didn't listen, and then John didn't call the right people. He called Rwby and them, so still, like, I don't, but basically they summarized by saying it's pretty much just a better choice than Beacon, and it's like, they're totally different environments. There are so many differences between these two shows that this person isn't considering, that you need to consider when comparing the two, because you have to think about the challenges they had, and not just what they've accomplished or what they've done, but why they did it, how they did it, the surrounding around them, what resources they have. It matters. It's like saying Beacon and Atlas are the same. They are not. Atlas is way better for so many reasons that it's not comparable to a place like Beacon, except for they got students there that are learning to be huntsmen, huntresses. That can be where it ends. Anyways, this video is getting way too long. My point was, I read this article and immediately thought, you're not good at this. You're not good at this particular thing, and you need to put a little bit more thought into something before just saying, oh, this is better, this is something. It's like, again, it's comparing an apple to a full course meal. Even then, even if you want to compare it to the apple being made by the same chef that made the full course meal, it's still a fucking apple. You can't compare that to this full course meal. It's just not realistic. This is way tastier. It's way fuller. There's way more food because of several reasons. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just... It's me being a nitpicky when it comes to arguments and stuff like that. But, yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. I'm sweating so much. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you like this video, like it. If you want to subscribe, please do. I'm pretty much a ranty type channel, but I also try to do more art stuff, but also talk about drama. I'm a weird channel, okay? It's a surprise what we're gonna do every week. But if you want to follow what I'm doing or talk to me or anything like that, follow me on Instagram or Twitter, or you can join my Discord server. It's kind of dead right now, but listen, I'm gonna bring it back. Just give me time. Just give me time. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Bye.